Okay, we have hit the magic time of 11 a.m., which is start time. I believe in being as on time as possible, but I will slow roll the start. But I also know it is me then lunch. So I want to be very cognizant of time and make sure that you guys get out on time, if not a little early, so you can get up there and maybe beat a couple people in line. If you have not gotten it already, we will bounce in and out of the slide deck quite a bit, but the slide deck is in Sketch. There's a bit.ly right here on the screen towards the bottom left. When the slides are up, there'll also be a bit.ly towards the bottom of the slides on every slide. So you should be able to get it as we go through, but again, it is in Sketch. As a side note, as we get started here, if you remember PHAS Edu, P-H-A-U Edu, if you go to that website at phasedu.com and then click to the resources tab, most recent presentations will be at the top. So you'll see the 2 slide decks right away that happened here at Visti. And then if you scroll all the way to the bottom, you have this nice big old folder full of different presentations that have happened over the last 10 years or so. So they're always there. They're always open for you to check out. And I try and update them as frequently as I can, bring them back around, present them again. So those resources are always there for you. As we get ready to get started, so that our folks that are joining on Zoom and you guys can kind of be collaboratively in the same space. If you're here for the last session, it's the same kind of setup as before. If you could go to nearpod.com, or you could use the mobile app if you want, look for the box to put the join code in, and I'll leave this nice and giant on the screen up front. It should jump you into a Nearpod, with the first thing being a collaborate board for you to introduce yourself. You can let us know your name, your role, where you're joining in from, whether you're online or in the room. But it took me a little bit to come up with a way that I wanted everybody here to also be able to work with and talk to those people in the chat as well. And with the internet, I feel like if we all got on Zoom, bad things would happen. So Nearpod is safer. Again, I'll leave this up. It's just nearpod.com. You should see a box that you can type that code in. If you're joining in on Zoom, you can do the same thing to jump into that Nearpod in a bonus tab. We'll give everybody a few seconds there, and then as we look at the Nearpod, we'll be able to pull that code up off and on as well. So if somebody comes in afterwards, if you would help them out, let them know that code, let them jump into that Nearpod as well. But if you're in, go ahead and take a few moments, jump into that collaborate board. Which is the box behind this box. I trust you. I will not at this time put on the parental controls. But again, we'll leave that up a few moments here. And the screen share should be going into Zoom, so go ahead and jump into that. Should be open for you now to jump in and start that introduction side. While you guys are getting your introduction in, I'll bounce back to this slide for a moment and further introduce myself. Hopefully you're here for the 5 Great Ways presentation that'll give you 5, and then in typical me fashion, a 6th bonus option for structuring some student-led learning. If you see pictures on the slides, a lot of the pictures often link to slide decks, because I believe in, wherever possible, giving you as many resources as I can fit in there without thinking I'm going to overwhelm people too much. Anybody that came to the hidden Google session is thinking that's not true. He gave me a slide deck with 100 slides in it. This one's nowhere near that. But you'll also see the contact info. I am fairly active on Twitter. I'd love to, if you could follow me. I try and follow everybody back that sends me a line, and we can collaborate there. Email is up there as well. I like to follow the model of basically lifetime tech support with presentations. So whether you have a question tomorrow, a few years from now, reach out to me. We'll collaborate. We'll try and get you any answers, including if you're thinking about any of the certifications you see up front. I'd love to collaborate and help you down that path. I lead a lot of cohorts for Google certifications. I've helped review things for certified trainer, innovator, things like that. And I'm connected to a wealth of other people that would be absolutely happy to help you out too. So if you have anything going solo or you want to do something in your schools, reach out. I would be more than happy to help. And in the top left, you're also going to see a sticker, which I have some available up front as well. So if anybody's interested in some free stickers, Unison Edu is actually what my innovator project became for Google. And it is a nonprofit all about trying to get educators the professional learning resources they need, regardless of the resources they or their schools have. So we either do a deep discount or we've offered stuff completely for free, including our conference that we did. The conference is now in archive mode, and we only asked $10 donation that then pays it forward to other schools for access. And we have access levels for entire districts and schools as well. But if you're interested, goodies up here that you can grab. And also we're always looking to grow our team. So definitely check out the website and jump in there as you would like. I'll go ahead and close this and pull this back. Thank you everybody that has put in things so far. Great, so we have a lot of tech coaches in the crowd, but I see some coaches joining us as well. Very good, okay. I like that we had some pictures thrown in as well. Okay, thank you everybody for introducing yourself. Something I also love that I am gonna keep going as long as my teachers will let me is a meme scale when I start things. I throw it up at the beginning of meetings. I also like to throw it up when I start a presentation and I bring it back around towards the end so I can get an idea on the spot feedback in case people don't fill out that evaluation form that's usually tucked in my decks at the end. As you're getting ready to start, how are you guys feeling? You have your scale from 1 to 9. You have obviously a range of different emotions. But that Nearpod now should be asking you or giving you the option, and you can check more than one. Very often when I see these, I'm multiple. Hotel sleep is not so much a thing for me. So we're on a few days now of not sleeping much. So it is definitely a combination of a 5 and maybe an 8. Loving all the stuff I'm learning. I'm loving being here with you. But if I wasn't up here with lights in my face, I'd be pretty happy in a little cozy spot sleeping too. And also, I don't know if there's anybody else, but number 6 just makes me smile because chubby squirrels are funny. All right, we'll pull that down. Okay, we got a nice wide range. Let's see what our chief one is. Lots of people feeling the tired side today. Hopefully I can do enough that I can go ahead and keep you guys at least awake. But trust me, I know it's a comfy chair. You might even be able to lean back a little bit. I will wake you up when it's over. I'll give you that courtesy. So if you need a few minutes, I will be that nice person that doesn't just turn out the lights and walk away. As we get ready to get started, I want to make sure in case anybody missed the bit.ly, this next screen should just give you another opportunity to quickly open that presentation if you need to. We'll leave that up for just a second. Because again, you'll have it in Sketch, and as much as I can, that bit.ly will definitely come up for you. We should have plenty of time to go through each one, but just in case, depending on who's in the room with us, if there's one that you really want to make sure we hit, I wanted to throw a poll question in here too, so you can say, well, I kind of know HyperDocs and I got a decent idea on choice list, but I've never heard of grid method. I want to make sure that if we hit, say 3, and we're only going to have enough time for one more, make sure you hit this one. So go ahead and throw that in the poll if you would there, so that I get a decent idea that if by some chance we can't hit them all, I'll put on the brakes when we have 10 minutes or so left, and I'll make sure we hit that one that comes up the biggest. Again, we should have enough time for all. And just by a quick show of hands in the room, and our people online will be able to jump into this too, so that'll help me there. By looking at it and seeing kind of what's trending to the lower side, I think I'm going to get a good idea of what I probably know already, but how many people already use HyperDocs know what it is? That's what I thought. Choice boards. Okay. So we'll go in essentially the order we have up here, so that again, I'm hopefully giving you things that you need. And then towards the end, anybody that knows choice boards really well, HyperDocs really well, we'll push those towards the backside. So again, if you want to hit up that lunch early, no judgment. Just don't tackle anybody on the way out and all will be well. All right, we'll leave that up. We'll close this one. And it looks like grid method is first. So we'll pop out of here. All right. And normally by those numbers that I see come in on that side, there's a decent amount of people that may not know kind of what the grid method is. If you're looking in the slides, you're going to look for slide 14 for those links, those resources there. And just to help me in the room, how many people have heard of the grid method before? Okay, perfect. So that is a perfect place to start. So if you look at the slide itself, and I'll just walk you through kind of what the links are, and then I'll open a few things to kind of go a little more in depth. But essentially, as it says there, a grid method is really a framework of a lesson of trying to put all of those components in one spot. So to show you through the graphic side here real quickly, you're going to start with your standards, and then you're going to start trying to break those down and map those to kind of you're going to have your depth of knowledge. Let me see. I'll just put that back to full screen so we can see it a little bigger. But think about your DOK. What are those levels of knowledge your students, you kind of want them to get to? Mapping those to your different lesson targets. What kind of mastery questions? So think about those essential questions. How do those essential questions line up? And then you're going to be thinking about those assessments that are going to go with those essential questions, those vital parts you need to hit in that lesson. And then the document you see on the right, I'll pop out to the website to show you this. But this document is essentially where all those things you see in that graphic go into one document, nicely organized with all of those things from the DOK levels, the targets, mastery questions, assessments, all in one spot. And if you want to kind of look along, if you go to the section down here towards the bottom that says, how do I get started? My recommendation is to click the one that says free intro course. And that will bring you to a number of different places, but the free intro course basically gives you all of the different information. How do I get started? How do I start my first grid? How do I make a grid? All in one spot, 100% for free. If you're in my other session, you know that free is absolutely my favorite price. But as you come down through just this sample sheet, this will give you a better idea. And I know the resolution isn't great, but I'll try and zoom in here so you can get an idea of what kind of a grid looks like. The grid is actually a teaching thing, but it's also something that could go to the students. Obviously, you see the name, date, and things, the headers at the top. Obviously, the one that you see here going through, you can see your DOK levels, your targets, you can see your standards, your questions, assessments, things like that next to it. This is obviously not something we would give an elementary student, right? There's a decent number of high school students I probably wouldn't give this to. So for me, a lot of this, at least this piece, mapping it out, putting all these things in one place, a lot of it for me is really on the teacher side, putting all my lesson stuff in one spot. And then I would probably tweak this a little bit to make it a little more student friendly. But the concept is getting those things in one spot so that a student can lead their own learning. They can walk their way through. They have everything they need, because you could put links in here. You could have links to videos, links to other content, all in one spot. For all of you that know HyperDocs fairly well, and that was the majority of the hands I saw, a lot of times when I'll intro this to teachers, I'll show things like this to teachers. I will say, think of this concept to make it more student friendly. take this and make it a hyperdoc instead, so that you have all those components in one spot, you have all those pieces, but it's a lot more user-friendly, a lot easier for the students to pick up on and walk their way through. Once you have the grid assembled, and again, that free course is going to do a better job of kind of walking you through all the different pieces. But if I zoom in on this graphic a little bit, you can see where each one of those different things go to. So starting at the bottom, you're essentially working your way up those DOK levels. But you're not necessarily color coding the sheet, right? Students are going to be able to work out kind of how that's going, but it allows them to choose still hit the standards, but have a range of different options so they can hit things at their level and work their way up. And I should have mentioned at the top, all of these resources on the grid method are coming from a group called the Teach Better team. They have an entire speakers bureau, an entire academy that has way more than the 2 courses that I'm going to talk about it all. They have a podcast, they have blog, tons of different resources. So a great website to bookmark and come back to off and on. The second component of this grid method is the progress monitoring piece. And that's going to be the graphic you see down here towards the bottom, but I'm going to jump over to this spreadsheet because I already have it open and it's basically that picture bigger. One of the big components of the grid method that kind of makes it click and work for our teachers to see, like, I understand I'm giving them the sheet, but how do I know where they are as they're working through? How do I have any idea of what's happening in my room if they're just doing their own thing? This spreadsheet is just one way to do it. There's other things in docs. You could use slides. If you're on the land of Microsoft, just substitute Excel, Word, PowerPoint for the different options. This is a progress monitoring spreadsheet. You would have student names down the side, and then you can see that it's set up with your conditional formatting so that as a student works through standard 1A, B, 1D, 2A, they would come through, and if it's something where it's noted in the work, you need a teacher to check this before you move on. They throw that flag up, you know, I need to work around or I need to connect with that student virtually. They need a check, they're ready for that part. If they're working, everything is good, they throw that flag. If they're done with that standard, it's just, I'm done, I'm moving on, it's green. But you have that red one as well. I'm stuck, I can't move anywhere, I need help before I can do anything else. Obviously, to use this and have all students in one place, your students need to be in a decent spot as far as you being able to trust them, where they're not going to go check boxes for other students, delete things, do different things. The Word version or the docs version, the slides version, and you can obviously make a separate thing in Sheets. You can do this so it's just one student on one thing. It does not have to be all of them on one. You can also take this progress monitoring down to the physical side. Some teachers have done this with simple red, yellow, and green cups. If you're good, you're working through, green cups on the desk. If you're all right, you just have a question, yellow cup. If you're completely stuck, and I know maybe this isn't the best thing in education, but red solo cup on the desk. But if you were stuck and frustrated, red solo cup fits, right? So that gives you an idea in a fairly quick run through, and there's more resources on the slide, but I want to make sure we hit some of those other things as well. But feel completely free if that kind of gave you a bit of a teaser and you want to spend the rest of the time diving through what does that look like. You want to spend time here working through that free course to get a better idea of how the grid method works. How do I create one? You want to look through some of these resources, feel completely free to choose your own adventure in this session and spend the rest of the time looking there, or feel free to stay with me as we jump out. We look at a few different things. And I should mention as well, as you're looking at things, if that grid method and the stuff from Teach Better sounds like something that would be good, it sounds like something you want to start looking for, and for some reason I don't get back to you super quick if you have a question, about the entire team on Teach Better is super responsive on Twitter, super responsive on email. You can send them a line at like any time. They will get back to you. They'll have resources. If you say, I teach science and I'm having trouble, how does this fit? I teach PE. How do I make a grid method fit in PE? They will have resources. They will have examples. They'll be able to send you things so that you can see this is how it actually works in a PE class. This is how it works at elementary. They have enough people using it that they're able to crowdsource a lot of those examples from every different level. And again, all the different resources here will be able to help you out. All right, number 2 was choose your own adventure. So choose your own adventure. We're going to back up one slide to 13. And because I'm in a Google space, and you probably saw by the badges and things, I'm fully Google as far as a lot of the different certifications and things. Therefore, a lot of these are going to be Google specific. But the way they work, the way the directions kind of walk you through, if you're in a Microsoft district, again, just substitute your Microsoft tools and a lot of the linking, how the different things are working, it's going to directly translate over to the Microsoft side. But at the very top right, you're going to see 3 different planning guides, which are all good places to start at least thinking about what does this look like when I possibly want to do a choose your own adventure. But in the very kind of low part of choose your own adventure, it is that concept of you have some sort of a starting event. That starting event has a choice and then it branches off. Then it starts to get more complicated because you have secondary events that then branch off again. Then each one of those events has some sort of an event that branches off again. So this template, which should be that one that is linked as number 1, is there for you to simply drag boxes over. You would change what event says, and then you drag arrows over, choice A, choice B, grab another event block, and it's a very elementary friendly. Obviously, it could be used secondary level, but it's a very friendly template to be able to use to start mapping it out. And it's very quick, very easy to see how complicated it could get depending on how many choices you want. If your students are fairly new to it, if you're fairly new to it, my recommendation is to start with just a few choices. And also remember in the back of your mind that every event doesn't necessarily have to have a choice. You could have 3 event blocks in a row. If there's certain content you need them to all get, you can have 3 event blocks in a row before it branches. You make it, you make the rules. The students make it, you still get to make the rules. One thing I'll say, and I'll throw in here as another tip in the land of Google, if you're like me and you kind of like the template to stay nice but still use it, you can use, as it says at the bottom, Control-D to duplicate things. But I discovered by accident in the world of Google that if you hold the Control key and click and drag, it's essentially an infinite cloner. So you can do Control-D, but you can also just hold Control, click and drag. I've discovered that it works in drawings and slides. Not as much luck outside of that, but again, that way I can see the template, because I like, when I'm working with students, I like them to be able to see this flow and not have that get disrupted as they work. If you look back to the template, if you have some older students, you want to see that template kind of look a little bit different as you're starting to look to map, to plan things out. The second one gives you more of a document interface. And you can see this one is distinctly set up to be more of an English lesson, more of a story. Obviously, that could transition into different subject areas. But this teacher has made the template so that it actually says introduction, beginning of story, first choice, second choice. But it just gives your, and you could give your students those different options of different templates. But as you scroll down, you can again very quickly start to see how it can get complicated the more levels you go down. Again, start simple, ramp it up, maybe have a minimum amount if you're going to have your students create them, and let them get it maybe as complicated as you would want. We've done this in multiple different subject areas. We've brought it into math, where students have worked through different problems and they use common errors to be one choice, right answer to be another choice, and they work their way through. We did it in Google Slides when we did that so that we would have just a little bit easier interface than in Docs for putting images and doing different things. Docs is getting a lot better as far as wrapping text, things like that. But in my world, Slides is way easier for stuff like newsletters and things because I can just drag, drop that image. I don't have to wrap it, choose a fancy option to make it happen. But again, you have more than one template there for you. As you get through that planning process, if you haven't nailed it down already, then you want to think about how that's going to be packaged. And that's really personal preference. And sometimes it's what features do you need? What tool fits what you're trying to make it do? And then you have a range of options here from some sort of a document, word processor, slides. You can make choose your own adventure forms by using that branching option in Google Forms. If you're on the Google side, that is creating different sections and then saying, based on this answer, jump to this section. You've created a choose your own adventure. Most of the ones you've probably done have not been fun, but you can actually make them fun. You can also do them on the website side. You've probably learned different tools since you've been here, like Adobe Spark or Canva, things like that. You could also make a choose your own adventure in Flipgrid. Different places where you can link in resources, things like the Nearpod we started with. Any tool that can allow you to build choices in, you could make a choose your own adventure happen. Each one of these things that you see here is going to give you some sort of information on how do I actually do this thing. So for instance, if I want to make one in Docs, you have a link there to get started. If you want to go into the world of slides, you have a few links there, forms, so on down the line. Each one of them should also give you an example. And there's a couple examples that I'll point out because they were real life things that came out. The one that says escape a game is actually one that went semi-viral during the pandemic. It's not necessarily a student created thing. It was an adult created written thing. But you can see here that they started with a doc. You have your creator information. You would click to go to part 1. And then sometimes it's going to be just text. Sometimes you'll have words. And then notice at the bottom, I don't necessarily have a choice. So they've started me with my intro, and then I have to go through that next thing before I branch off, before those choices actually start. But because of the fact that you have so many different options of how you could package it, what's going to be in it, you can make a choose your own adventure. And really, the reason I put this whole deck together is I thought that every one of the concepts in here, every one of those packaging ideas could fit different subject areas. They could fit different grade levels. And then as you come down on this one, that's when you get 2 choices. You'll notice in this doc side that it's not just one document that scrolls. Because you could do it that way. You could have it as headers. You could have it as a table of contents type of thing. But then within one document, if they just scroll, they have all the answers, all the options. It takes away a little bit of the mystery. If you put it in different documents, then when they choose, they don't see everything. They just see that choice, those options before they go forward. Another one on there in the world of docs, and I won't go through all the different ones, but this one is one that I played with a couple times, and it was cool to see one that was created by a professional organization that could bring a concept that might be a little hard to grasp, maybe a little hard hitting for students, bring it into that choose your own adventure type of realm. So this one was done by the BBC News, and as you scroll down, you'll be able to get some information and the different choices that you choose, starting just with a gender. You begin your journey and see how it would have been for you during the Syrian journey, during that conflict that was tearing, as it says, tearing the country apart. And I gave a shout out to this in the session the other day, but Applied Digital Skills is one of my favorite Google resources to help teach some of these concepts. That one there for slides, if you pop that open, it is actually a full lesson, full how-to of how to create an if-then story, which is essentially a choose your own adventure story. All the videos, all the instruction you need, you could put that resource in to your students. They could essentially teach themselves with you helping out how to do it and then work through it. We'll go ahead and jump back to our Nearpod. Next one we have is self-created digital breakouts. How many people have created their own breakout before? We have a few hands. How many people use like Breakout Edu and have maybe done the ones pre-made? Okay. So in your slides, I'll go ahead and point it out just so we can get to the same one together, just in case you want to be there. You should be on slide 6 if you want to check out the different things for these self-created digital breakouts. The whole concept behind it, and those of you that have used it, played with it, which was a few of the hands in the room, is giving that kind of gamified experience to the students. You're putting different clues in different places, and as they find those clues, they're learning those concepts, they're solving those problems you're putting out, they're putting those into a lock of some sort and being able to break out of that concept, essentially learning it, showing you mastery that they've hit. This has your physical side, it also has your virtual side. One of the things that I encourage our students and our teachers to do as they create these is also think about how you can merge those two worlds off and on as well. Just because it's a digital breakout doesn't mean the student has to do everything on the computer to get the answers for the locks. Some of our teachers made some of these over the pandemic time when we were closed that would actually have the students go outside and do something, find something in the house, interact with somebody in the family, somebody else in the house, do a meet with another classmate to do something. You have a number of different examples across the bottom. And then you also have this link right here that says Digital Breakout EDU off to the side. If you open that, that's going to give you this slide deck that if you are new to this, because I'll go fairly quick in showing you the different pieces of it. If you're new to it, if you open this slide deck gives you all the resources to go from scratch, plan it out, build it, send it out to the students. We tried to put everything all in one spot here for you. Each one of the titles that you see should be linked to the artifact that you can make a copy of, that you can check out. I'm slowly making my way back through to change these so that you can see the template before you copy it. The planning sheet is meant to be pretty simple. Start thinking about what kind of locks you might want to use. In the world of locks in the digital side, if you're not sure what those could look like, if you look at the very next slide, you're going to see that the word locks is linked. That will give you access to this document where you can start thinking about if this is going to be a completely virtual experience, I could use different combinations of letters. I could have different numbers, different directions, like right and left, you'd use the letter R and L. You could have different words, you could have phrases, you could have dates. So it starts to give you an idea of what you could use. And then you could start thinking about things, well, I really want to use this, but it doesn't quite fit. Then you could maybe possibly add an extra wrinkle if it doesn't quite fit. Could you have some sort of a cipher that you could use where different things they find equal something that could be typed in a box? Obviously, that adds an extra little wrinkle, a little bit more complexity. So you have to think about the students in your room to see how that would work. But once you have an idea of the locks, you can start to fill in some of those. You can start thinking about what the actual answer is going to be. What type of clue is going to get them there? Are you going to bold certain letters in the directions, certain letters down below? When they put the bolded letters together, they unscramble it, they get an answer. Are you going to make a fake eye chart from one of the resources out online that has a hidden message in it? Are you going to make a picture, a puzzle that they put together? About anything you can get to that you can link to out online could in some way be a clue in the digital breakout. As you come down through the deck itself, again, each one of the different steps, you're going to have different ideas. So as you're preparing and you're thinking about what can I make a clue, there's a couple resources there. One of our teachers' favorites, and the kids seem to also like puzzles quite a bit too. Jigsaw Planet is just one of them that allows you to upload an image, control how many pieces the puzzle is going to be, create it on the fly, get a link. A few times as students I've worked with have gotten a little more comfortable with breakouts, I will use this to throw a couple extra curveballs at them, meaning the Jigsaw Planet, the first puzzle they put together is a picture of a bit.ly link. It doesn't give them anything else but a link to go somewhere else. And then maybe that link gives them an actual clue that goes back to an answer of some sort. You could use things like Edpuzzle, but put it in guest mode so that people don't have to sign in first. Google Drawings is a good one, and there's other things like ThingLink out there, but ThingLink is another, it's a freemium resource. So if you're lucky enough to have the paid side, you could use that, but Google Drawings is really good to play with the layering and hide different things in pictures. Maybe making the text the same color as the background. So they have to highlight, they have to look a little deeper to find different text pieces. Maybe making it so the links on a document or on a page are not underlined like they usually are. They're just regular text, but you have to search to find that link to make it happen. But again, about anything you can link to, you can make that lock. And then the big part is the Google form itself. There's a few videos linked in. And then where it says Google form on the left side, what I tried to do is make you a Google form that you can click on the make a copy option. And once you get in there, it's going to have most of those lock options from that planning sheet already built in. And then as you click on it, it should also have the response validation set up for you. So you can look at it and see how is this locking it in so that what they type, they can only enter the right answer. For instance, for the letter lock, I usually use regular expression, make it so that it has to match, and then I would type in that letter combination, whatever it is. And that is what, as they work through it, if they type the wrong thing in, you can customize that text there off to the right. That tells them to keep trying, or you're so close, something like that. While we're in this side, one of the things I really like to play with in the breakouts comes in the presentation section of Google Forms, where you're going to see confirmation message. My recommendation for any breakout that our teachers create in Clark is to put another task, another something in there, some sort of bonus challenge. If I asked for a show of hands, I'm assuming it would be just about everybody that has or can think of that one student that you plan something out to be roughly that hour-and-a-half block, and they're done in 20 minutes. Add a bonus task, hide another entire breakout that maybe even covers a lot of the same content. Maybe it's an enrichment task, an enrichment breakout, but put that information, put that link in this confirmation message, so there's something else for them to do there. When you paste the link in, as you guys probably know in Forms, it's not going to look like it's live, but when the students get to it, when they're actually on the form, it's going to be a live clickable link for them to follow. In case you've not seen one of these before, one of my big recommendations would be to search Tom Mulaney Digital Breakouts. It's also linked in the resource side of that deck. But you can see here, if I come into Tom's breakout site and I say, I want to see something on science, I can come into any of these different ones and click and get an idea not only of how one looks, but I as a teacher, or I could even send students to this, I could use this as is if it covers the content I need, the content I'm looking to hit. One big caveat, how many people use securely in the room or know securely is what they filter stuff in their division? If you don't know, just keep that in the back of your mind. Something that hit us during the pandemic, securely changed something with the way that it filters through sites. And unless the site was approved and kind of in the approved list of securely, it started blocking every Google site that wasn't created by us. So that hit some of these that people found, and it also hit some of the ones that people bought on Teachers Pay Teachers. So if you have an issue, if you're working with a teacher, it says, I bought this, kids go to it, it doesn't open, I don't know what's going on. It may be the filtering side, you may need to get it hit to that approved list. So just keep that in mind. But you can see here, we have some links on the page that would be clues. You can hide some hints as well. If you know that the students you're working with, or even the teacher you're working with has never done one before, and you're gonna have them do a sample one, you're gonna have them work through something, my recommendation, especially at the elementary a lot of the times, is to start with numbering the locks as a scaffold. Don't just jump straight into having everything hidden. Go ahead and number 1, 2, 3. They still have to do the work. They still have to do some of the things, but they don't have to search for every single one. They don't have to be lost before they know how it functions. After you maybe number a couple, maybe hide the last one. Say number 4 is somewhere on the page. As they get comfortable, start pulling some of those scaffolding back. Some of our students absolutely love this when they were new to it. Some of the students hated it because they got frustrated really quickly because they couldn't find the different pieces. So that scaffolding part can be really important. And you also need to make sure your teachers know or think about those students in their classroom that might need some more accessibility features built in. So those things aren't hidden from them because of their disability in the room, not just because it's hard to find, but because of the way it's hidden, they're not actually literally able to find it. But you can see we have the site, we have the form on the side. Big recommendation if you're going to use them, and those of you that have run them will probably know, I would recommend right-clicking the tab and pinning the tab, so it's a lot harder to close it while you're working on it. And again, as you come down through, there's more slides in that deck that'll walk you through all of the different goodies with the breakouts. As you get towards the very last slide, you'll have some more examples, you'll have things there. But as you work through it, you'll have all of the ins and outs. Every step you need will be built in there for you. You have examples on this side, and then at the bottom, if you haven't opened the other deck, you don't want to jump all the way into that, you also have some information there on how you make one, how you create it. Big caveat is, don't think you're locked into just Google Slides as the package for it. If there's other tools you love, like Flipgrid or Adobe Spark or Canva, different places that you can embed links, that you can embed content into, can be the package for the breakout. We all know that as adults, if we see the same thing all the time, we get bored, we don't like it as much. As you do breakouts, as you do any of the different things on here, think about how you can mix it up. Use a different packaging tool, use some different things. Don't just hide text every time. Don't just use a puzzle every time. Mix it up, try and keep it fresh, use some different tools. Okay. So I think the last one we will touch on, and we're gonna hit it in just a couple minutes, because I do wanna make sure I point out one slide here, and we're gonna take about a 2-minute pause, because I've thrown a lot of information at you. If you were in my session the other day, you have seen this slide before, you get another chance to play and beat your score from yesterday. So we're gonna take a 2-minute pit stop. I know it's not quite the middle of the session, but if you go to slide 7, that will start a little section here that was meant to be a mid-session break. We're a little past midway. But if you jump down to slide 11 and click the link that says try an old school game, that will open up the hidden Google Goodness deck and should, as it loads, jump you straight to the slide that, again, be a couple minutes here, a little bit of a brain break. You have 5 different choices there of some old school games. Go ahead, take a couple minutes, have a drink, have a small pause without me talking at you. Be back with you in just a couple minutes. Does anybody have a really strong personal favorite in those games up there? Pac-Man, like the best thing ever in the childhood side? I can remember the place that we used to go to growing up to get our haircut had the double-sided Pac-Man.
Yes. And Miss Pac-Man.
Yep.
Yes.
Have you ever played the version where you have to tilt the phone to make it move?
I want to eat that.
So in about a minute, we'll jump in and hit one more, and then we're gonna wrap up again a few minutes early, make sure we make it to lunch on time, but not shortchange you on any info. About another minute. So if you're trying to beat a high score, try and move, be just a bit quicker if you can.
I saw that.
Okay, slowly start pulling you back to me, but if you want to keep playing, the only thing I would ask is you just turn the volume down a little bit. Don't mute it, still enjoy it. The last one we'll have a little bit of time here to hit is the interactive classroom, which is hitting on slide 12. And this is a concept that really took flight during the pandemic when things were closed. Obviously, the most famous interactive classroom is which one? Bitmoji, right? If you've not seen it, and if you're interested in the Bitmoji classroom, there is a huge Facebook group with tons of resources, tons of people to help you out. But the concept is super well illustrated in the GIF that you see on the screen right there. And it is that concept of using a slide. Sometimes it's more than one, but you're bringing different elements into that slide to make it more like your classroom or more like a homey type of environment. You can see that as the person brings different things in there, they're bringing a floor in, they're bringing walls in, some pets, bookshelves, all of those different things that might make it more of a more welcoming type of environment. And then they might put links on that whiteboard. They might put different resources in different places. Those links, those resources is the actual meat of the lesson. One of the big things, my big caveat with this when I worked with our teachers is the more things you put into that interactive classroom, the more things you put in the Bitmoji classroom that are not those meat and potatoes pieces are more things for the students to get lost in. So you definitely want to make it that homey, that more comforting thing, but you also want to make it really obvious what those things are that the students really need to get to. In some cases, different teachers that I've worked with, we've made that interactive classroom piece. We've put a decent number of things into it. And then we've made a cheat sheet on the backside that is, here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, what you need to do. There's a really fun interface, but if you get lost in that, here's your hint, here's your help sheet. I won't go much more into depth. I know that's super short, but the concept of building it really is that simple, of bringing in images, bringing in text, adding links, things along those lines. The other pieces that you're gonna need to play with in the world of slides, for instance, with this GIF that's playing, one of your biggest elements as you build them, because you're gonna have multiple things possibly on top of each other, and you're gonna need to play with those different levels. Most different things you're gonna use, if you right-click that text, you right-click that image, you're gonna look for the word order or the word arrange, and you're gonna have to play with sending things either forward or backwards, which sends it just one level so that the correct things are on top of things. For instance, if I put the couch under the floor, that doesn't make a lot of sense, right? Couch has to be above the floor, but behind the lamp, things like that. But most all of that order is really the most complicated piece a lot of people get into when they build these. You have a number of different resources, including a link here as a nod towards the accessibility side, thinking about cognitive load for students. And that's, in a nutshell, there's a bunch of different components, but it goes back to that side of not putting too much in there so that your kids get lost. One of the last things I'll leave you with is a twofold component. The first thing is a tip that I first saw come from Sarah Kiefer in the world of a tip for YouTube. If you go up to the URL and you put a dash in between the T of tube and the U in tube and hit enter, it's going to respin to the same video, still coming from YouTube, not an outside service, but it's taking you to the no cookies version. So it's not saving things in the background, but what else disappeared? What else doesn't come up then later on? So if you have a few minutes as you get packed up,
Just went down.
Huh.
there's a good chance this will make you
Let's give it a
laugh
sec. We'll come back.
and send you to lunch on a good note. Thank you guys for your time. I appreciate you being here.
Something just happened in the world and we have no idea what it was.
I know what we can do. We can go to a movie.
Yes. What's playing?
I'm sorry?
Playing the film at the move.
I don't know what's playing.
I found a Thai place.
Oh, good. Read a review.
There's no review, it's just a phone number.
How am I supposed to eat there if I don't know what other people think about it?
Come on!
Work together, work together. Do you have anything? No, I don't have anything.
What's he doing?
Oh, he's streaming a cat video.
And the whole party's looking at me.
Come on.
I haven't seen a movie based on a comic book in so long.
I know.
Please come back, Internet. I love you. I love you so much. Just come back, please, please.
How are you?
Fine. How are you?
I'm fine. Good. Yeah, good. Good.
This is great.
I was talking.
I don't need this.
No.
We never do this anymore.
No. I'm just gonna leave it up.
Yeah,
Just in case it does come back.
Just to be sure. Honey, is the internet back yet?
Yes!
I need to let her know that I'd like this. I'd like.
Honey,
It's not swiping.
come on. Is the internet back on?
No.
Is the internet back on?
No.
Is it back on?
No.
Is it back?
Sweetie, call any one of your friends who has the internet and have them read us the internet.
What? Have them start at the beginning.
They're not answering.
Oh, come on! All I'm asking for you is to be funny. Play the keyboard. Just play the keyboard right now.
Get high-speed internet from AT&T. Keep calm, your internet's on.